What if you could sit down once a week with a colleague who's a flat-out warrior? This colleague wasn't a stud in dental school. He struggled. He returned to practice in his hometown, an area once labeled by USA Today as the second worst place to live economically in the United States. And this very same colleague went on to establish an historically successful general practice known worldwide. What if you knew someone that wanted to take you by the hand and show you everything you need to know, from treatment planning to leadership, to maximizing your journey in dentistry, or just life? You ready to be inspired? Welcome to the Lionhearted.
Hi everyone, Dr. Steve Rasner here. Welcome to the Lionhearted Dentist. I'm going to make this one short and sweet and to the point this week because A, I valued your time, and B, I value my time. And I've been non-stop working. So I thought about things and what I wanted to say, and so here we go. I'm not sure I'm going to entitle this, but it's going to be close to this subject this week. And it's called, I'm going through a thing right now, and I need you to do the same. And that thing is called Vigilance. I do want to give you a little quick, what do they call it, housekeeping. My courses, again, are sold out. So if any of you, those of you listening, you're not all interested in surgery. Those of you that are, if you're interested, sign up now because they don't last. It's, I don't know what to say to you. It's not a trend. I feel happy and fortunate that I've been able to constantly attract like-minded colleagues from around the United States, coast to coast. And, it's a blessing, as they say, to be sold out every time you share your knowledge. I even expanded the course from 8 to 10, which is probably the max I could ever do. I'm not interested in scaling it and bringing in all kinds of teachers and things like that to make it bigger than it is. So it speaks for itself. So I'm only saying that because I forget to say that. All right? Let's get back to what we're talking about. I'm going through a thing right now, I said, and I need you to do the same. And the thing is vigilance. And it's probably the most important skill for you to employ if you're going to have long-term success. When I present live courses, one of the first things I say very early in the presentation is you don't have to be a superstar to be a superstar. You just have to want it more and be willing to outwork everyone else. And the operative word there is, phrase there, is outwork everyone else. You see, that line came from my personal experience because I was far from a superstar in dental school. Oh, I wish I could run it back and figure out what changes I would have to have made to be ranked in the top whatever, and had access to the best post-grad programs that I didn't have access to because my story wasn't that I was ranked in the top. And then when I was kind of feeling like I was left back in school, meaning I didn't have any choices but to go back to my hometown and join my father, who was a dentist in practice. It turned out to be an amazing thing for me. And actually, I'd never be able to thank him enough for the generosity he gave me by trusting me and funneling patients to me. But it wouldn't have been my first choice by a long shot. And I don't think it's weird for me to say that. It was my only choice. But I didn't feel like that inside. I felt I was a really potentially good dentist. And I worked hard. By working hard, what I mean is I took a lot of courses early on. And my bar, just like your bar, of what is okay for my patients was very high. I'm going to grab a coffee. I don't think you have to edit this, Josh, because I'm going to be 15 seconds. And they already know I live in their world. So I forgot to grab this. So here's what's been going on. See, I like doing it like this because it keeps it real. Here's what's been going on that led me to this conversation with you today. Many of you that tune in regularly know that I had back surgery in December. And not only was I physically impacted, I think I was psychologically impacted. I was worn out, and more worn out than I even realized. And you've heard me share with you the decrease of my practice in terms of multiple parameters and metrics. And they're true. Production's down. Case acceptance was down. Leading up, by the way, to the surgery, too. My ability to lead was down, too, or my willingness to lead. And I know you can tell by my voice right now. And if you're looking at me, you can tell by looking at me that I am coming back. And this podcast, look, when you're alone, you can get sidetracked. And I'm alone when I do these podcasts. It's me, that camera that I'm looking at, and you. And I don't want them to be about my overcoming this and that. I want them to be about, this podcast would be for you out there right now that find yourself in a rut. And how are you going to get out of it? And I actually have labeled the last several podcasts along this line. Calling about being a warrior, which is ironic because that's where the Lionhearted podcast name came from. Being a warrior, being a lion. Because I really felt that given all the obstacles that you and I have to deal with in the past 10 years in dentistry, that you need to be a warrior. You need to be fearless. You need to not give up because there's so many obstacles. And I'm going to tell you something. It's just, I wish there was something more sexy and easy and tricky that I could tell you right now that would help you out of your funk, or even just, maybe you're not in a funk. Just take you from the plateau that you're at, which isn't working for you, and help you reach the next plateau. Because I'll tell you, for one thing, I am positively on the way there. I am. I've got metrics to prove it. To myself, I mean. And I can feel it in my daily relationships that are in my practice. But I want to tell you how it's happening. It's happening just by me being more vigilant, not letting things go. And it is exhausting. And here's the truth, to my truth, as I see it. You don't have to be doing a sprint of leadership all the time, but you do have to do it sometimes. And if you want to reach maximal fulfillment in dentistry, and to me, maximum fulfillment comes when my work feels good, when I feel like my patients really value the work that we're providing, when the relationships with my team are the same way, and I can sleep at night and I'm rested. And that's not really happening right now. I mean, last night, I'm talking to you today on a Tuesday. Last night, I took a course after I worked at night till 11 o'clock. You know why? Because in the state of New Jersey, and anybody in New Jersey who's not familiar with the recent changes in the enteral sedation permit license should probably reach out to me because they've just made it a lot harder. You used to need the requirement of 20 hours every 2 years and basic life support CPR, but they upped it to ALCS, advanced life support. And that is a friggin' different ballgame. And I got that on my plate. I got a practice that felt for the last 4 months that it was in decline because it was. And I will tell you honestly, in my opinion, if I had to fine tune the primary etiology of the decline was lack of leadership by me. And I can make the legitimate excuse that I was just too worn out leading up to my surgery and certainly after for 8 weeks. But that didn't fix it. And I've been in practice for 4 decades. Many of you have been practicing for years. And I'm telling you, I had not experienced just overall drop in performance from top to bottom. And I mean from my sterilization assistant that turns over my rooms to the highest level staff members I have. Remember the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff? Remember that book? I used to love that book. And I'm sure many of you enjoyed it as well because it gave you the rationale to let your guard down a little bit, to not be so vigilant. There was sayings in it like, I don't remember them. Will this problem really matter a year from now? It's a book you would buy at the airport. Go hug a tree, or I can't remember the things. And by the way, that's a nice thing to do. Here's the thing. That doesn't work in the particular profession that you and I chose. Laid back, chill, it'll get better. Yeah, sometimes those things come in, and I do employ those skills if it's really a gigantic obstacle. Like, to be honest with you, I'm kind of going through it right now. A little bit of that mentality. I'm using those tools to get through ACLS because I was about to take a test on Monday and I am just not equipped. I don't know all the different rhythms of the heart and what to do when, and it's not something I do. And it's kind of cool learning. And by the way, I am going to update my oral sedation requisites a little bit for you and even send you some interesting forms to protect you on pre-surgical consults or pre-sedation consults, what you should do before you dismiss the patient. Look, here's the truth, guys. I know I'm off on a tangent right this minute. Stay with me. I've used my protocols for 24 years and have never had an incident, not even one that I even know about. Seriously. The protocols I've used doing sedation every single day, I mean every day, sometimes 2 to 4 patients in one day. And that use of oral sedation not only allowed me to give better care to my patients, it made more pleasurable days for me providing dental care because I didn't have moving targets. I didn't deal with patients squirming all day and, ooh, ow, and all the other phrases we hear when we're injecting patients or whatever. I mean, it's night and day. It really is. So, actually, it was for the benefits of the patients and myself. And there's really no choice for me. If they told me I had to, whatever they told me to do, I'm going to do to get this permit. But in my work, I'm telling you that, but their rule matters, not what and the same in your state. I've always said that some states make you do an IV sedation permit to dispense oral sedation medicines. So they haven't done that in New Jersey, but they've upped basic life support to advanced life support. So back to the book. I want to read you, I'm not the first one to recognize that don't sweat the small stuff doesn't always work out in the long-term success of every business. So I looked it up. This says it's the small stuff, the hidden extra step that few people see, even fewer actually take, that separates the average person just getting by from the person who really believes in a goal and is dedicated to doing everything in order to achieve that. It's actually called 212 degrees, the extra degree. And that title comes from the fact that many of you know already that at 212 degrees, boiling water becomes steam. 1 degree more of heat creates an amazing amount of energy to do a lot of things with. So what does that mean right now in my practice? What have I done different? Well, I think I said on a podcast a few weeks ago when I was weakened and that I just didn't feel fulfilled anymore. And I started changing the leadership of my office. And I want to be literal with you. So one of the things I said this last week. If you didn't catch that podcast, I thought it was a good one. And I entitled it The Obvious Solution. And I was referring to the fact that I had stopped doing morning meetings, along with many other things in my office. And I had stopped that, by the way, for years. And I got by with it. I got away with it for a long time. Because we had so many other protocols in place that it kind of protected the tooth from breaking, if you will. Do you like that? But it caught up with us. And I got into such a bad rhythm of one bad day after the next that I couldn't take it anymore. And I knew what the answer was. I knew the answer was to start implementing these meetings again, which I have done now for 2 weeks. And I want to tell you something. It didn't happen instantly, and we're not there yet. We're not even close to being there yet. Here's what's happening in those meetings. I want to make this clear to you. If you don't instill or implement a morning meeting every day, but I want to be clear, that is different from a monthly or bi-monthly organizational meeting. Those meetings are to make directional changes in your practice. Are you going to start eliminating certain insurance toxic insurance that you participate? Are you going to change the protocols of how a new patient journey is into your office? Is there a specific person taking that call like there is in my office? And what's expected at the first visit? What is the protocol and the order of step by step? By the way, if you want this, let me know and I will create it. Or if I probably have most of this already in blogs. Do you have that? Something in order as to when you first come into the scene of the new patient visit. Because the outcome of that is case presentation. And it's so important. And when everything I'm talking about for you right now is important. When can you present day one? When can you not? And so, do you have those things? That is discussed in a monthly meeting, not in the morning meeting. But the morning meeting is an opportunity for you to make that day maximally successful. It doesn't mean that it's going to be, but you will always have a worse day than you would have had without a morning meeting than if you had a morning meeting. It is an opportunity for you to eliminate potential bumps. And look, I literally get up 30 minutes later or earlier every day. I drive from Philadelphia, which is where I'm speaking to you from right now, to my New Jersey practice. And everything's better. I didn't even know this. I mean, the traffic isn't as bad at quarter of the hour versus 15 to 20 minutes later. I mean, I know you don't need to hear this, but I know you ever go to the airport early versus not so early? 99% of the time, everything's better on that trip. Is it not? When you're rushed, everything that can go bad seems to go bad, right? So I have embraced this now. My staff actually asked me after the first week of it, do we have to be here next week ready to go at 8:45? By the way, I said 8:45. My team doesn't even have to start literally till 8:45 or 8:30. Some of them have to be there to get their charts in order. We start patient care at 9. Want to work for me? I wouldn't do that to your other doctors that are close to me. But you hear me? So yeah, you have to. I know what I told them. You have to be here ready to. Now, I was very specific. I said you have to be standing at the desk at 8:45. Don't make me hunt you down to bring you here so the meeting starts at 8:50, because I need every minute of those 15 minutes. And I literally take a schedule like this. And what you're looking at on this schedule are 2 columns for me. This particular one, there are 2 hygiene schedules and an associate schedule. Okay? It changes. Tomorrow is Wednesday. It's strictly me and 3 hygienists. All right? When I start doing this, I forgot that it brings out other questions that may have nothing to do with this day. But when your brain and you exercise your mind towards a certain goal and you are focused, now I want to tell you some things. And you're going to think I'm overbearing. Some of you will. Look, man, I'm not up there saying we need to make more money or we need greater production. I literally, on the first day that I reinvented the morning meeting in my office, said, I don't want you to think I have you here as punishment. The sole real purpose of this meeting is to reduce stress, to make it a more pleasurable place for us all to work, because the stress comes from the unknowns. So one of many things I have been vigilant about is the morning meeting. And if you don't know how to conduct it, ask me for a guideline. You can, but you know the first thing I say, at least in my practice? And you could say something similar if it's something you embrace. I always used to start the meeting off with a 1 or 2 minute inspiring thought. Not a quote, a thought, a real thought by me that was relevant to this practice in this town, in this part of New Jersey, in this part of the United States of America. I'm not kidding you. I'd say something like this. Did you guys ever stop and think what a privilege it is if you want to be in dentistry? This is really right out of a meeting. I said, did you guys, talking to my staff, we're all assembled at a front desk situation as I'm speaking, what a privilege it is if you want to be in dentistry to be in the position that we are in. You understand? You ever think about it? that we have people going out of network, that means they're paying more money to come to us. They made a conscious decision to do that for your care. Because obviously it's our care. It isn't just me. And that there's a greater responsibility in a practice like this for everybody to perform, for everybody to bring their A game every day, not call out on Monday. Because you're not bringing any game. You just made our game harder when you call out on Monday. And I can't do it without you. None of us can do it without all of us. And we got to earn it every day. We can't even do it really great for 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. Because the people that come in here every day are the people that we have to serve. They're the people we have to impress. That we have to be palpably different from the operatories being spotlessly clean to you not forgetting your roles. Everything counts. And when I say that to you, I'm talking to you right now, my audience. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I had 2 4-hour surgery patients. They both canceled. I don't know if that's ever happened to me, but they had fully paid me. They both canceled. I saved the first one. So I want you to follow me on this. And I like sharing these stories with you because I think it helps you, because I don't want you to think that even though I'm doing everything I'm doing, and you have to do what I'm doing, or close to it, you have to be vigilant, which I'm not done talking about. So in a really well-organized, Lionhearted practice, that almost never happens, because one of the principles I embrace for you is getting paid up front. And the easiest way to have a broken appointment is to have somebody need to make a payment the morning they're coming in. But that's all off the table if they've already paid you. That won't be the reason they're going to break. But it could be hidden fear. And so that was the case. So in these 2 patients, first we go into the save mode, the SAVE. Can we save the appointment? The first patient on this 4-hour break was saying that she was having bathroom issues. We saved that one. I almost wish we didn't, by the way. It was so hard. Not because she had bathroom issues, because, by the way, P.S., there were no bathroom issues. The issue was she was a little too sedated, plus / maybe some sense of dementia, which varied on this patient. Like, it wasn't there at all at her hygiene exam when all this work was diagnosed and treatment planned. So I couldn't get her to stay open, even with bite blocks. She'd kick the bite block out with her tongue. It was a nightmare. I was doing a crown, several crowns, but on number 18, I want you to picture this. I couldn't get the drill. I tried for 20 minutes. And she was very pleasant. She just wouldn't cooperate. And I don't know if she knew she wasn't cooperating because she was very smiley about the whole situation. I did something I haven't done maybe ever. I had to use a disc because I had the lingual partly prepped. A picture of the lingual of number 18, or my European friends, number 4, 6, or 7, or 3, 6, or 7. I couldn't get the lingual prepped appropriately, so I had to take a series of coarse disc on a mandrel, which doesn't take up as much vertical. It was beyond belief. I swear to you, I don't think I've ever quit a procedure, but I wanted to. I got it. And we got the impression. We scanned it. I don't know how. I really don't know. So the first one, I didn't realize I was getting into that. The second one, I got on the phone with. And I was brutally honest. I said, you have to tell me what's going on. Because, we're talking, I put around 4 hours of my time for you. And she said she's filled with anxiety. And I gave her a number of pep talk. I'd never worked on her before with sedation. And so that one failed. But at least it was the afternoon. So that's when you have part of a morning meeting is plan B or C if anything goes wrong. And one of the things that can go wrong, particularly in a patient and a practice that doesn't get paid up front, would be a broken appointment. So what is your plan? That's part of the things. You need to address me on what we do in those morning meetings that makes the day more enjoyable, less stressful when roadblocks come up. So I want to say one more thing before I let you go. It's really hard, is it not, guys and women and ladies, to remember. It is really difficult to remember even a poignant moment in a day the next day when things go wrong. At least for me it is. So if there's something that's wrong, I deal with it at the first break I can. And I'm not beyond addressing small groups within my office that are germane to the issue that came up. So scheduling. So I would take 2 or 3 people into my private office, ask somebody to cover the front desk, while it's fresh in my mind, be as proactive as I can possibly be. And I mean it. There's no room for you being a dictator in your office. It doesn't change anything. To be mean or raise your voice. I'm talking about, this is how I want you to know this impacts the office and me and colleagues in the office in a negative way. I want you to understand it. And I want to take it further with you. I'm talking to you guys. Do you ever speak to your staff and there's a look of a deer in a headlight looking at you? Like they don't give you any feedback. If I see that, I will address that. I will say, when I speak to you like this, it's to make the office better. And I even have a patient back there. And I don't have a lot to say. I just need you to let me know that you get my point. Not to look at me blank and say nothing. Because then I don't know if I've accomplished anything. Do you get what I'm saying? Am I coming on too strong? You have to have an embrace, a no-fear communication in your office. And what I mean by that is your team, not you, doctor, has to feel comfortable and say to you, even if it's something you don't want to hear, because maybe you are crossing the line. Here's my takeaway. You have to address breaking issues pretty lickety-split. You can't let things go that you think are detrimental to the life of your practice. Now, if it's a little thing, sometimes I can write it down. I'll even dictate it to the sterilization assistant that's back with me in the clinic, is in another room sterilizing instruments. I'll say, Teresa, do me a favor, would you write this down and put it on my desk? Because otherwise, it's gone. Maybe those of you under 50 don't even know what I'm talking about. Those of you over 60 know what I'm talking about. Making a well-oiled machine means oiling that machine all the time. And it is exhausting, guys. I have so much on my plate between now and the next month, between my live implant course on May 5th and 6th, between preparing for ACLS, between getting my practice, which, by the way, is working. Last week, we collected $134,000 in 3 days. That's not bad. It's really good, actually. And you already know it's not about the collection. What that tells me is there was some good case presentation that week or weeks before that. They didn't all come in just that week. Remember, the goal is to have the patient leave with a good sense of your practice, whether they accept treatment or not. So, and I find myself implementing lots of innovative things to make us organized. So last thing is, we now meet the week after on all new accepted treatment plans, and we review those treatment plans and make sure they are appointed appropriately. I mean, look, when your numbers get higher, it requires higher levels of organization. And in terms of, case acceptance and all that. And that's what you hear me communicating. You hear me being more vigilant, certainly, than I've been in the last 6 months or a year in my practice. And the payoff is less stress, right in front of my eyes, better days. And if that's what it takes, I'm willing to do it. And I would suggest you see in your own organization if you're missing some of these links. I hope this helped, guys. And my side of it, it felt brutally honest. I'll see you next week on the Lionhearted.